morning. We're going to cover Objective 8 today. We are going to write equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular to other lines. So, still talking about slope and slope-intercept form, standard form. Here we go. Let's talk about our rules for parallel and perpendicular lines. So first of all, we know that parallel lines have the same slope. So if I give you the equation of one line and ask you to write an equation of another line, you know that that other line is going to have the same slope as the first line. Okay? They are rising and running together. And our rules for perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other. So we talked about this the other day in class. Some people said they're opposite. Well, they are opposite, and then some people said they are reciprocals. They are reciprocals, but they are opposite reciprocals of each other. For example, if one line has a slope of, I don't know, 3/4, then the perpendicular line to that is going to have a slope of negative 4/3. So you got to change the sign and flip it. So let's look at a couple examples. Here's example 1. We're going to find an equation of the lines through the point 5, 2, and it's parallel to the line 4x plus 6y plus 5 equals 0. So first of all, we know if they're parallel, they're going to have the same slope. So we need to find the slope of this line. So my first question to you is, what's the slope of this line? And you can't tell me right now. You can only tell me the slope of the line when it's in y equals mx plus b. So we're going to have to solve for y. So I'm going to move this over. I'm also going to move this over. So I'm going to have 6y equals negative 4x minus 5. And then I'm going to divide by 6. So y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5/6. So we know this has a slope of negative 2/3. So if it's parallel, that means our slope is going to be negative 2/3. So my question is, what do you have now? You have a point, you have slope. Say it again, point, slope, point, slope. That means you're going to plug into the point slope formula. Okay, so when we plug in y minus the y, which is 2, equals our slope, which is negative 2/3, times x minus 5. Okay, and it just depends. I'm going to have you, this is in point slope form now, but I'm going to have you take it to slope intercept form. Okay, so we need to work this out. So negative 2/3 x plus, I believe that's going to be 10/3. And then we're going to add 2 on this side. So I believe that's going to be negative 2/3 x plus 16/3 if you add these two together. So now it's in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? So I think it would be great if you would try this one. Okay? So hit pause and try it. I would encourage you to graph this. We know the point's going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we want it to be parallel to the x-axis. So here's the x-axis. So if we wanted it to be parallel to this, then it's going to run like so. My question is, that's a horizontal line. So what's the slope of a horizontal line? The slope is 0. If it's flat, it's 0. So you could plug in to point slope y minus y sub 1 equals m times quantity of x minus x sub 1. So y minus 5 equals 0 times x minus 4. My question is, what is 0 times anything? It's going to end up being 0, and then you move this over, you get y equals 5. Another way to look at this, I told you the other day that horizontal and vertical lines, they're the weird ones. You can't necessarily, you can plug in 0 to an equation, but if this were undefined, if it was parallel to the y-axis, you wouldn't be able to do this one by a formula. You would have to just use the graph and know the equation. So when it's a horizontal line, I always tell my 8th graders, you think x because it's horizontal, but it's actually going to be the opposite. You're going to use the variable y. And my question is where are we intersecting the y-axis? We are intersecting the y-axis at positive 5. So there's the equation. So just a review, like for example, if it was parallel to the y-axis, if I wanted that equation, you would not, this has a slope of undefined, you would not be able to put that into the formula. So you would just have to know this. First of all, if it's going up and down, we think y, because of the y-axis, but it's actually going to end up being x. And where are we intersecting the x? We're over to the right 4. Okay, so just a review if it were horizontal or vertical. Okay, so we're going to find an equation of the lines that go through the point -1, -2, and perpendicular to the line 2x plus 5y plus 8 equals 0. So again, what do we know about perpendicular? We know that the slopes are negative reciprocals. So again, I encourage you, hit pause, try it, see if you can do it, okay? But if you're still with me, we're first going to find the slope. So we need to solve for y equals mx plus b. It's got to be in that form for you to know what the slope is, okay? So if I move this over and I move this over, 5y equals negative 2x minus 8. And if I divide by 5, y equals negative 2/5 x minus 8/5. So my slope here is negative 2/5. Okay? So that means the slope I want to use is the negative reciprocal of that. So the negative is going to make it a positive. You're going to take the opposite, and then you're going to take the reciprocal. So the slope is going to be 5/2. Okay, so now you've got point and slope, point and slope, point and slope. So let's go to our point slope formula. And I'm going to plug in a -2, so that's going to make y plus 2, because that's a double negative. And 5/2, this will become x plus 1, because it's a double negative as well. And then let's take this one to standard form. Let's review our standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. Okay, remember no fractions, no negative a's. Okay, so let's distribute 5/2 x plus 5/2. Then let's play our game. Are our x's in the very front? Nope. So I'm going to move him over. Negative 5/2 x plus y plus 2 equals 5/2. Are our b's next? Yes, y is next. Then we have equals, and then all my numbers, so I need to move this 2 over, should be on this other side. So negative 5/2 x plus y equals, I believe this is going to be 1/2. Okay, so can't have this negative in the very front. And how do I get rid of those fractions? I'm going to multiply everything by -2. So this is going to become 5x minus 2y equals -1. Okay? All right, one more example. Find an equation of the lines through the point -2, -11, so it's going through that point, and it's perpendicular to the line passing through those 2 points. So I need to find the slope of these 2 points because we know perpendicular lines are going to have opposite reciprocals. So let's use our slope formula. And I'm going to start with -1 minus 1 and 5 minus 1. So this is going to be -2/4, which reduces to -1/2. So the slope we want to use is perpendicular to that. So it is opposite reciprocals. So we know we're going to use, it's going to go through -2, -11. And we know the slope we want to use, first of all, it's going to be positive, and it's going to be 2/1 or just 2. So if I use my point slope formula, so y plus 11, because it's a double negative, equals 2 times the quantity of x plus 2. And let's take this one to slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We did the last one by standard form. So this one we'll review slope-intercept form. And I'm just going to solve for y. So y equals 2x minus 7. And there is our answer. And we are finished.